Chapter 11. The Passage of the Fire. On the three upper cornices are the souls of the covetous, the gluttonous, and the lustful, those caught in the three aspects of that possessive love which feeds the desire of the ego instead of nourishing the self. Having talked with one of the covetous, the poets are halted and stupefied by a totally unexpected experience. The whole mountain shakes as with a tremendous earthquake, and there follows a great glad cry from every soul in purgatory. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Both poets are pale with the shock. Never, says Dante with such frantic lust for learning, did any ignorance in my life assail me. His curiosity is soon laid to rest, for the travelers are hailed by the soul of the poet Statius, who explains to them that he has just been released from purgatory into bliss, and says that, although the mountain above Peter's Gate is never shaken by the forces of nature yet, but when some spirit, feeling purged and sound, leaps up or moves to seek a loftier station, the whole mount quakes and the great shouts resound. The will itself attests its own purgation. Amazed, the soul that's free to change its in finds its mere will suffice for liberation. True, it wills always, but can nothing win, so long as heavenly justice keeps desire set toward the pain as once was toward the sin. If we were still looking for proof of Dante's profound psychological wisdom, these lines would leave us in no doubt, if you understand what they're saying. Many times, it comes to us in lesser degree along the way, this sense of sudden release from an inner conflict, which has long absorbed our energy, and the amazement with which we know ourselves free to change our in, to seek new ground upon which to stand. There is no hint at all of an arbitrary external deity setting a man free after he has punished him long enough. So this is about setting ourselves free. The will itself attests its own purgation. However great our desire for it, the will does not really want freedom until we have borne the tension and the conflict long enough to purge us of all demand for this or that. The pain of this bondage to the split within us is the heavenly justice to which the man who has accepted purgatory gives his allegiance. So although from the beginning we want freedom from conflict, we do not desire with a whole heart to be released into mercy, into love, and this whole heart can be born in us only when the human state of conflict is accepted. There follows a passage which touches the heart of true courtesy. Statius, the released and redeemed soul, speaks of his love for Virgil, and Dante smiles, almost winks, so that Statius questions him and finds that Virgil is actually there beside him. Statius falls to his knees and would stoop to kiss the beloved pagan's feet, so that Virgil has to remind him they are shades. Any description is clumsy and does not convey the delicate beauty of the incident. The three now travel on together towards the summit. On the last cornice, they come to the fire. On the blissful mountain, says Dorothy Sayers, the traditional purgatory fire is conspicuous by its absence. Only on its last and highest and most triumphant cornice does this great scriptural image blaze out with a sudden splendid lucidity. Fire, which is an image of lust, is also an image of purity. The burning of the sin and the burning charity, which is its opposite virtue, here coalesce into a single image and a single experience. Here the bank belches forth great sheets of flame, while upward from the cornice edge doth blow a blast that shields it, backward bending them, so that in single file we had to go, where space allowed, and I was sore afraid. On this side, fire, on that, the depths below. This is a place, my leader therefore said, where wandering eyes and a strict control require, since a false step were all too easy made. Wandering eyes were here no longer a harmless lapse. The direction of the inner gaze has become the one wholly essential thing. All wandering desires and fears, all opposites of whatever kind, are gathered into the intensity of looking. Images and experience have become a single reality. Dante looks deep into the fire and sees the souls of those being purged of natural and unnatural lust, running in opposite directions around the mountain. And as they pass, each greets another with a kiss. Thus the journey between damnation and salvation begins and ends with a kiss. Paolo and Francesca at the beginning of the Inferno kiss and begin the slide into unconscious identification and the betrayal of love, which is the kiss of Judas. The souls here at the threshold of freedom kiss in that conscious exchange of human love, which is the door to salvation and wholeness. It is interesting that in the Inferno, the sodomites are placed far down in the city of Dis, whereas the heterosexual lustful are in the topmost circle, where their pains are far less deadly. Discrimination, even in hell. In contrast to this, here in purgatory, both kinds of lust are purged together on the highest cornice. It is another example of Dante's great insight. A homosexual who falls into promiscuity and indiscriminate lust is usually in a far worse state of ego-centered neurosis and disintegration than a heterosexual in a similar case. You're going to have to ask about that one. But a man who has accepted his homosexual tendency, whatever its psychological causes, and has embraced the pain of transforming it into conscious love, burns in the fire on equal terms with those who suffer from natural lust. The reason for this lies in the fact that the desire for a person of the same sex exposes a man or a woman far more dangerously to the horrors of autoerotic isolation than the desire for the opposite sex, however promiscuous. Even the most sordid lust between the sexes is at least some sort of reaching out for the other within, whereas the desire of man for man or woman for woman, when all effort towards responsible love is abandoned, much more easily becomes a turning in of the personality upon itself until all the values of human exchange are destroyed. When once, however, that effort and the sacrifice it involves are accepted, all are equal upon the way. For each and every love, no matter what or whom its object, is recognized as a reflection, however dim, of the love of that other which is the self. Slowly we move towards the realization of this love, transcendent and immanent, until we burn in the fire and are free. Every thought and act derives from love of some kind, says Dante, whether distorted into self-destroying desire or redeemed into conscious creative exchange. In Jung's words, love's activity ranges from the endless spaces of the heavens to the dark abysses of hell, and we are free to choose. Therefore, on this highest cornice, all souls must make the final choice and pass through the fire, whether their specific sin has been lust or not. Dante, walking carefully along the edge, has not realized this. As with most of us, the moment comes with a shock of terror. The fear of his dream of the eagle now becomes consciously confronted fear. He sees the glory of the angel standing on the further side of the fire and rejoices in the beauty of his voice singing, "Blessed are the pure in heart." Then the angel speaks to the travelers. "Holy souls, there's no way on or around but through the bite of fire. In then, and come. Now be you deaf to what, nor be you deaf to what is sung beyond." As we approached him, thus his words struck home, and it was so with me, when this I heard, even as with one who's carried to the tomb. I leaned across my clasped hands, staring hard into the fire, picturing vividly sights I had seen of bodies burned and charred. Virgil and Statius both turn to strengthen him, and Virgil reasons gently, assuring him that he cannot die in this fire, for it is the fire which burns but does not consume. He even invites him to hold a bit of his tunic in the fire so as to prove to himself that it will remain intact. But as at the beginning of the journey, so here at the last barrier of purgatory, no reasoning, however convincing, can help Dante, or indeed any of us. Have done with fear henceforth, have done with it. Turn and go safe. And there was I, for all my conscience smote me, budging ne'er a whit. Only the name of Beatrice gives him the courage to go on, as it had given him the courage to start out of the dark wood in the beginning. Only love, actual and incarnate on this earth, personal as well as impersonal, can take us through the fire which burns away desire and fear. Look, my son, he said, twixt Beatrice and thee there is this wall. So did I turn me to my leader wise, my hardness melting at the name which I, like a flat, fresh wellspring in my heart does rise. So Virgil went into the fire, talking still of Beatrice waiting for him on the other side, and so coaxing and cheering him on. Dante followed. And I, being in, would have been glad to throw myself for coolness into molten glass, with such unmeasured heat did that fire glow. As they came out of the fire, night is falling once again. There is a last stairway through a cleft in the rock up to the summit of the mountain. They start up it, but as the sun sets, they lie down, each upon a stair. Gazing up between the high rock walls, Dante looks upon the stars, shining bigger and brighter than they've ever been. Ruminant thus, I gazed on them afar, until sleep took me, sleep that oft in dreams can give us news of things before they are. Talking about premonitions. Dante is no longer in danger of drifting off into random thoughts and fantasies. His gaze is sure and steady. He ruminates, contemplates, and the dream which comes to him is very simple. He sees the images of two ladies. One, young and beautiful, is picking flowers in a meadow to deck herself with, so that she may enjoy her image in the glass. She is Leah, and Rachel, her sister, sits still before her mirror. Leah and Rachel often represented the active and contemplative lives, respectively in medieval allegory, and Leah tells Dante in his dream that such is their meaning. But as usual, Dante never stops at mere allegory. The interesting thing about the dream is that both sisters look into the mirror at themselves, the difference being that Rachel looks into her own eyes, her own depths, all the time seeing therein the microcosm of all things, while Leah looks first outward on the beauty of flowers and then uses her hands to unite that beauty to herself. What a very different attitude to the active life from our own. Both the active and the contemplative ways, contemplative ways, have become a looking. Rachel looks inward, Leah looks outward, but both look at themselves. In Dante's brief vision of Leah, we feel the transformation of action by looking deeply into the core of every act, every object, until the light of the unity shines into our eyes from the 10,000 things and out again into the world. There is said to be an inscription on a gravestone in Cumberland, England, which reads, "The wonder of the world, the beauty and the power, the shape of things, their colors, lights, and shades, these I saw. Look ye also while life lasts." Each sister has found her identity. Each sees in the mirror herself objectively, cleansed of all personal vanity, because the self she sees is also the self, the big self. Inner and outer are one. So the sun rises and the poets climb the long stair. At every step, I felt my feet grow wings. On the top stair, Virgil turns to Dante for the last time. The purgation is over. Dante is free to love and do as he wills. Virgil's own words alone suffice here. The temporal fire and the eternity. Thou hast beheld, my son, and reached a place where of myself no further I discern. I've brought thee here by wit and by address. Make pleasure now thy guide. Thou art well sped, forth of the steep, forth of the narrow ways. See how the sun shines here upon thy head. See the green sward, the flowers, the boscages that from the soil's own virtue here are bred. While those fair eyes are coming, bright with bliss, whose tears sent me to thee, thou mayst prospect at large, or sit at ease to view all this. No word from me, no further sign expect. Free, upright, whole, thy will henceforth lays down guidance that it were error to neglect. Whence o'er thyself I mitre thee and crown. So basically, Virgil releases Dante at this point to the next guide, who I think is Beatrice, but we'll find out.